All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating guide for self-development called the 10 Great Vows. These ideas come from a school of thought known as the White Sun Dharma Vessel, and honestly, they offer a pretty profound way to think about our own growth.
And this quote right here, it gets to the very heart of their whole philosophy. The central idea is this metaphor. They see life, the world, as a vast, bitter sea, filled with challenges. So the goal for a person is to become a Dharma vessel. Think of it like a spiritual ship, one that's strong enough and compassionate enough to navigate those rough waters. These 10 vows, well, they're basically the blueprints for building that ship.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at what it takes to even get on board. Then, we'll talk about a key framework for understanding all this. After that, we'll group the vows into themes, and finally, we'll wrap up with the ultimate goal of the whole practice.
Okay, so first up, the boarding oaths. In this tradition, before you can get any kind of real guidance, before you can be shown the path, you have to formally commit. And we're not talking about some casual promise here. This is a foundational, non-negotiable step.
Think of it like this. You don't just get to be a passenger on this spiritual ship. No, you have to sign on as part of the crew. And these 10 vows are your contract, your solemn oath for the journey ahead. But it's really important to get this. They're not meant to be a set of restrictive rules. They're actually the very framework that makes spiritual progress possible in the first place. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of each vow, there's a really cool concept we have to unpack. The source material tells us there are 3 different levels, or capacities, at which people practice these commitments. And trust me, understanding this framework is the key to unlocking what each vow really means. This table lays it out perfectly. At the top, you've got the upper root practitioners. For them, it all comes from innate wisdom. It's just effortless, second nature. Then there's the middle root, which, let's be honest, is probably where most of us would land. These are folks acting with real sincerity and conscious effort. And finally, you have the lower root. They rely a bit more on guidance, and their main focus is on just trying to avoid doing the wrong thing. Keep these 3 levels in your mind, because they're going to be a huge help as we go forward.
So, let's get into our first cluster of vows. These first 4 are all about our inner world. They're commitments you make to your own integrity and your own state of mind.
The very first vow is about sincere adherence. Sounds pretty straightforward, right? Hold on to the path with a true and genuine heart. But what does that actually look like in practice? Well, you guessed it, it all depends on which root you're coming from.
It's amazing how this one single idea unfolds in 3 different ways. For that upper root person, sincerity isn't something they try to do, it's just who they are, an unwavering state of being. For the middle root, it's an active, conscious practice, humbly trying to do good and stay away from bad. And for the lower root, the most important thing is just to be genuine, to stop pretending, to stop fooling others, and, this is the big one, to stop fooling yourself.
The next 3 vows build right on top of this foundation. They're all about sincere repentance when you mess up, avoiding hypocrisy in your words and actions, and just plain persevering, not retreating from the path even when it gets really, really hard.
And man, this table just lays it all out so clearly. You can totally see the pattern, right? Look at repentance. The upper root person's mind is just already clear of bad thoughts. The middle root person focuses on openly admitting and correcting their mistakes. And the lower root practitioner is willing to accept guidance to change. You see that progression? From an innate state to conscious action to guided correction, the exact same pattern holds true for avoiding hypocrisy and for not giving up.
Okay, so we've looked inward. Now let's shift gears and look at the next set of vows. These are all about how you interact with the outside world, specifically with your spiritual community, your teachers, and the tradition itself.
Now this 5th vow is a huge one, not deceiving your master or disdaining the lineage. This is all about honoring the source of the wisdom you're receiving. And as you can probably guess by now, this shows up in very different ways depending on your level of practice.
So for the lower root, it's about showing basic fundamental respect. For the middle root, it's about staying loyal, not getting distracted by other paths. But for the upper root, wow. Honoring the lineage means you understand the teachings so deeply that you can actually transmit their true meaning to others yourself. That's a whole other level.
Vows 6 and 7 keep this theme of community conduct going. Vow 6 is about not disrespecting seniors. For an upper root practitioner, this means way more than just being polite. It means fully shouldering the mission of those who came before. For a lower root practitioner, it starts with showing proper respect.
Then vow 7 is about obeying the rules. And again, this ranges from the upper root person who just lives in natural harmony with these principles to the lower root person who focuses on observing the basic etiquette. You know, showing up on time, dressing appropriately, that kind of thing.
And this brings us to our final cluster of vows. These are all about what's called the sacred responsibility. This is the duty you have to protect the teachings, to be sincere in everything you do, and to contribute to your absolute fullest capacity. The 8th vow is fascinatingly subtle. Not leaking heavenly secrets sounds so mysterious, right? But check out the difference in practice. The lower root practitioner might make a very literal mistake, like revealing a sacred name when they shouldn't. But the upper root practitioner's mistake is way more nuanced. It's a lack of wisdom, sharing a profound truth with someone who isn't ready to hear it, which could actually do more harm than good. Now, the 9th vow is a commitment to not be insincere in your duties, no cutting corners. And that leads us directly to the final and maybe the most challenging vow of them all, vow number 10. This is a promise to not fail to act according to your ability. Think about that. It's a vow against selling yourself short, against holding back your potential. The source material uses some incredibly poetic language to describe how a middle root practitioner might fail at this. It says they get trapped by emotional shackles, love's locks. They start to see fame and fortune as the be-all and end-all. And while they're busy doing that, they let the real opportunity for growth just slip away. It's such a powerful warning against getting lost in worldly distractions.
So, we've walked through all 10 vows, but the text doesn't just stop there. It ends with one last, absolutely crucial point, and it's this. There is a world of difference between just making a vow and actually living it. This distinction is everything. Making a vow, that's the starting line. That's the promise you make when you first step on the boat. But fulfilling a vow, well, that's the whole journey. It's the lifelong practice, the actual work that turns that good intention into a real accomplishment. And this is the ultimate takeaway. Real spiritual progress isn't measured by the promises we make, but by the principles we actually live out in our day-to-day lives. It doesn't matter if you're starting as an upper, middle, or lower root practitioner. The only path forward is always through action. Which leaves us all with a final question to think about. If we step back from this one specific tradition, it's a pretty universal idea, right? Whether you call them vows or principles or values, what are the core commitments that guide you forward on your own journey through life's vast and sometimes bitter sea?